Before we get into it, if you enjoyed these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button, and keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as, investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that.
All right, folks, here we are on Monday, May 5th. We're going to take a look at SoFi today. So I sort of have a tale of two charts here that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the breakout potential that could be being signaled here on the Weeble charts, and then I want to take a look at maybe the not breakout. That sort of is what the think or swim chart here looks like to me. So let's start with the Weeble chart, and I'll talk about what sort of looks breakoutish or potential for breakout to me with SoFi. Now just keep in mind, when I say breakout, I don't mean that that's going to go to the moon. By breakout, I mean it could break down, right? Breakout, break down, some outsized move. Now, as you can see on the chart already, as I'm yammering, this pattern here, right? This wedge. So we have this 1842 came all the way down to 860. We put those together and the price action in between, and what do we get? We get a downtrend resistance here that had a failed breakout a few days ago, and an uptrend support here that's been climbing actually very sort of steeply into the same range. And so we are like, yeah, I suppose it could sort of put a candle in here tomorrow. Maybe Wednesday's gonna be right on this point, right? So even if it moves like a little bit up or relatively sideways, I think the last opportunity you would have for it to break out or break down from this wedge pattern and not have anything else happen would be like Wednesday. Like it could put in a Wednesday candle that's kind of on the tip here, but then Thursday it's got to go somewhere. Now just keep in mind, Thursday could go sideways. So if the breakout doesn't occur, yeah, it could just sort of like sidestep its way out of this wedge and nothing could happen. We'll talk about that more when we flip over here to the thicker swim. But if we do get a breakout, we have potential for big bust down here, big boom up here. Big boom, obviously I'd look for any motion to fill this gap, right? There's a gap here. This would fill at about 1323. So that would, not the hugest move ever, but it gets you moving in the right direction. And then you can maybe start gunning for this, 14 and a half to break that swing high. If it does start to bust, the initial thing that I'd look for here would be filling of this gap. There's also a gap here, right? So it has a gap just above it, has a gap just below it. This gap it would get into at like 1164, and it would fill it at about 1143. So that's a relatively small gap, but is a decent percentage away. This gap is a little bit bigger, already partially filled, I will say that. But it's not as big of a percentage change, if it comes up to here. But again, it gets the motion in one direction or the other. And if it is reacting off of this compression, although it's a very brief compression into this wedge, then yeah, maybe it continues on that direction more strongly as time progresses. Now, the other thing here before we leave the Weeble setup, the EMAs. So you see the 183 coming in here. It finally made contact as things were breaking down. It fell all the way down to 860, as you know, and has come back up and tried to retake the 183. That's where it had that failed breakout of the wedge. Came back down, though, and caught support right off of the 183 on this candle and has continued to utilize that support in the days since and is now working off the 8, which in any standard stock market environment, which I wouldn't necessarily say we're in at the moment, you would look for that to say like, okay, strong potential here for bullish momentum. Not a guarantee, not 100%, lock and load, but looking like it's in that direction. With the compression of all of these EMAs here, this again sort of coincides with the entering into that tightest point on the wedge, right? All of these EMAs are bunched up. They're all sitting on top of each other or very, very close to each other. Certainly relative to here, right, you saw that and you saw a big move come out of that. Where did we see it prior to that? I mean, here it was just sort of like moving through it, but not really kind of like compressing. Like this is the best, most recent example. And yeah, we got a big move coming out of that. But I mean, look at how far away these EMAs are for most of the recent price action. And then it bunched up here again. Now, will that persist? We'll see. but time will tell. So does that tell us any more at the moment? Again, not really. It does give us some indication that there's some consolidation, some bunching of these EMAs. Again, could we get the potential for unloading? Maybe. Now, here on the Thinkorswim side of things, we get a different picture. If we look here at April, this period here is April, and we have just a crazy month. Now, in that month, we had the continuation of this, the macro forces driving everything down, and then we had a run up to earnings, right? So we had sort of two forces of catalysts colliding to some degree. And what that looked like was it coming down below the put trigger here and coming all the way down extremely close to the -1 ATR level, working its way back through as it headed into earnings, hitting the call trigger here, and then coming up almost to the +1 ATR. So it stretched almost from the -1 to the +1 over the course of the month, and that's crazy. Now it's coming off the back of all of this other crazy that's been going on for the last several months, and so it probably doesn't quite feel as crazy, but that is a wild turn of events. Now we're coming into May at the base ATR, right? So this one that sits in the middle of the call and put trigger, and that's by design. It's where it's supposed to be coming in. But this would almost make me lean toward, with all of the volatility from last month, strong opportunity here for it to consolidate along this base ATR. Maybe it comes down toward the put trigger, which is at 1173. Maybe it comes up toward the call trigger, which is at 1329. So still a decent range there, but nothing like this, of course. And so could we see it just kind of oscillating around this base ATR throughout the month? Maybe. Again, in just sort of a standard, we're post-earnings market environment coming off of a month like this. If everything else is equal, I'm looking at this and I'm going, yeah, probably. I would tend to lean toward this, maybe again, bouncing around a little bit, but mostly gravitating to or staying right around the space ATR, a relatively consolidative month. Now, could that change at some point in the month? Sure. But this is where I would lean at the moment. With the TTM squeeze indicator down here, we get no indication of triggering happening. That didn't happen until way back here, right? This happened in December. That's into early January, and then that lit this fuse, right? And then things all fell apart, as you know. But there's no TTM squeeze indicator triggering here at the moment. Still playing out that lengthy, several months long fire at the moment. Again, while it's sitting at the base ATR, coming off of a very volatile month. So, those things, again, would sort of make me lean in toward more so the possibility of, consolidative month, opportunity for compression, things chilling out, and then maybe looking for a larger move toward the end of the month or into June, July sort of thing. So that's why it sort of looks like a tale of two charts to me. Opportunity here, based on the factors that we talked about. There you can see it all compressed, and then sort of looking like the opposite thing here. So that's why I wanted to sort of show both charts, say, to the degree to which you're taking these charts into your own sort of set of data, decision points. I'll give you both cases, because to me both cases look like they just exist at the moment. For the time being, I'm kind of still just sitting on the SoFi sidelines waiting to see what's going to happen. Of course, if you're building a longer term position, then yeah, you should do what you think is best. I'm looking to swing trade and do shorter term trades in and out. That's why I'm looking for big outsized moves, right? I'm not saying oh, do I think that this is a great 10-year value right now? It's not the question that I'm asking myself, as it pertains to the charts that I've showed you in this video, at least. All right, folks, so I hope that your trading week is off to a good start. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.